Does this look unhinged? No. I think it looks, I like looking.
Well, if I were unhinged and looked like that, then we're doing pretty damn good.
Silent night, I only have one wish for the shooting star. Holy night, send me someone to love so I can hold their hand while we're ice skating around the trees in Central Park. Kiss them under the mistletoe. Oh, I want a Christmas kind of spark. Santa Claus, do you know Cupid sent his arrow straight to my heart? I wanna fall in love this Christmas. Santa, that would be the greatest gift of all.
My name is Catherine Morrison. I'm one of the florists here at Geometry Gardens, the floral and gift store. So we're going to be working on a vase arrangement. My family is originally from Jamaica, and my mom has always had orchids and tropical plants around the house and cut flowers as well, so that exposed me to having flowers around always. And after working in the corporate world for a little while, wanted to go back to working with my hands and being involved with people on a day-to-day basis. And I ended up here at Geometry.
So do you find that you favor more tropical varieties, or what do you think is your flair?
Yeah, I would say that I enjoy incorporating the tropicals where I can, but I'm definitely guided by the seasons. So like to use what is locally available, seasonally available, and freshest from the market that day.
Awesome. So it's almost the holidays. Mm-hmm. And I see that you have a lot of reds and greens. Mm-hmm. Maybe take us through some of the flowers. We're going to make a small centerpiece arrangement. Is that correct?
Yes, totally.
So I'd love for you to maybe go through maybe some of the things that you might use and what to consider for a centerpiece arrangement.
So as far as what is seasonally available right now, we have these amaryllis, which are very beautiful.
Ooh, those are those are not like your grandmother's amaryllis.
Yeah. The colors are really special. The shape of the flower is really cool. So those are always special to incorporate in an arrangement.
They look fiery, but a beautiful color with that kind of cerise rosy tone.
In the center here, we have ilex, which is also a fun branch arrangement on its own, but when you incorporate it in smaller pieces, it can be used on a wreath, or in this example, in a vase arrangement for a centerpiece.
Yeah, and these are winter berries. It's actually one of our native plants around here. Really
cool.
Beautiful.
Over here, we have Mimosa.
Oh yeah.
Which is one of my favorite textural elements. It gives you a really cool leaf shape as well as the brightness of the yellow. So that is a fun pop in an arrangement. Of course, we have some fall classics like chrysanthemums and this really deep, moody purple. So this is good for a deeper arrangement. And of course, we have the classics, roses, but we try to have some more traditional colors as well as brighter and more vibrant colors that we'll use. Down around the bottom of the table here, we have our greens, like juniper, for example.
Yeah, juniper. Very pretty.
Hi, welcome.
Also popular for making gin, is that correct? I don't know my alcohol, but
yeah.
I think juniper berries is what people may use for gin.
Oh, that's so funny. So yeah, this is kind of where we'll be starting for the centerpiece.
Perfect.
Based on what we have right now, I definitely want to use some of the seasonal evergreens as our base greenery.
I love the colors.
Yes, the cypress is really stunning, as well as this juniper. I'm also really loving the eucalyptus pods.
Ooh.
Yes, these could all play really nicely together.
Oh.
And as far as the flowers, I think it could be nice to do something maybe on the more pink into orange side of things, but we'll see how they all come together.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, and part of this is very organic anyway, right?
Yes.
So.
Yes. half the time when you pull them and see how it starts, you want to make some edits.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I'm thinking. So when thinking about a vase arrangement, integral to that is a vase, and I think this one is a really great place to start. It makes it pretty easy to start building into it, but we also have some really special pieces from local makers and makers throughout the States. So like this could be special for like one or two dramatic elements, or more of a bud vase could be really pretty as well. But for the sake of today, I think I'll go with this, which is one of our staple vases in the shop.
Do you ever risk getting a vase that's too garish, that could take away from the flower arrangement? Because you just picked something that's beautiful and it has a very subtle textures and color, but yeah, is there any kind of no faux pas with the vase?
I wouldn't say there's any no-nos. I think that the vase can inform your floral selection. So if you're going with a louder vase, more of a dramatic shape, or an interesting composition, then I would maybe go more simple structural in the flowers, or branchy, as opposed to a more simple vase. You can go as dramatic as you want on the flowers. But I would say that they kind of inform each other in a way. So when starting with a vase arrangement, I will think about the colors that we want to work with and start pulling from there, or if there's any star element that I definitely want to include. For today, I want to try and work with this Christmas bush, which is a really pretty texture and color, and it feels very festive, but not too over the top.
It almost looks like it's kind of has this, it would dry well. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, it does. I do think it could dry nicely.
I love flowers like that because sometimes, like straw flower or something, you use it and then you're just like, oh, it looks good dried too, and I don't have to toss it out.
Exactly. They get a new life, which is always really pretty. And this could go nicely with some roses. And to start out, I will generally just pull a few things in my hand, but once you start making, that can change based on how it's looking in the vase. And then maybe we'll do some of these guys. And when making an arrangement, there are different elements. So the more textural, which would be the Christmas bush, the more statement or focal flowers, like this rose and carnation would be like our base. Then we can have the more whimsical or wispy elements, which I think would be really pretty to incorporate this butterfly ranunculus.
Now, how come some are in like the cold chamber versus others that are not?
The cooler is good for the more delicate flowers. It can keep them fresh for longer, but also sometimes when our table is full, we'll just put things in to stay there. But this is for the more delicate, thinner petaled flowers. So ours is set to 43 degrees, and as long as it's not too close to freezing, because then things can frost up.
Right.
But that is kind of a good holding temperature. But right now that it's getting cool, as long as flowers are not near a heater or a drafty window, they can hold up pretty nicely. Now I'll get some greenery that'll complement it. This juniper.
I love the texture of these.
Oh my goodness, it's so beautiful.
Verdigris kind of color as well. It's not quite blue, not quite green.
Yes, it adds like an icy feeling to it. Okay, and then we'll do some eucalyptus pods.
We'll be doing some wreath making with Catherine next week, and so I hope some of these will be available for the wreath.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be really fun. I think this is a pretty good pull. And my tendency is always to over pull, but of course the table is right here, so we can come back. But just to get a good layout in front of you. Here, I have this large piece of juniper, and if you see, there is sometimes, like this can be a really beautiful shape on its own, going in the vase, but this could be a little bit large for a vase like this. So I also like to look at things for usable pieces. This can be an element of its own, and then this can stay intact. So I'm going to go ahead and cut right here, and now we have two pieces that can be used. Once you clean off the stems, and you also want to make sure that the stems are clean, so that can, you know, cut down on any bacteria growing, and go in. So now this is one piece and another going here. It's always better to go longer because you can always cut down shorter. And the way I was taught to make arrangements was in the spiral technique. There's a bunch of different ways to set a vase arrangement, but I often like to start with just two pieces of greenery that will like ground you. They can always be moved after the fact as well.
And can you explain more of the spiral technique? Like, what is the definition of the spiral technique?
Yeah, so that is building an arrangement in a way that will hold them into place. So you're essentially creating a bird's nest. And to do that, I'll show you here. You can place a green or a flower under the stem to the right of it. Or some people do under the stem to the left, and then you kind of lock them into place. So this, I will just place it under here. So now you have that. And then for the fourth piece, I will go under this one here.
Oh, this is quite clever that you have like this rotating thing so you can see around it, especially when you're creating something that's a centerpiece where it has to look good all the way around.
Yes, it's really handy for doing an arrangement that'll be viewed from all sides. That's also something to consider when making is where you're going to be placing your arrangement, what level or the focal point will be. This one we'll try to make it 360 so it can be viewed from all sides.
Nice. Now I see that when you're making this, I would imagine that things like the juniper or the eucalyptus last, or the cypress last a lot longer than like say a rose. So when you're making a bouquet, how would you suggest, can you make a secondary bouquet when the other things are, you know, how do you like to do it?
So what I like to do is include a variety of elements, combining ones that will last longer versus the more delicate. And honestly, I'll just pull out flowers as they're, you know, coming to the end of their life cycle. And then you'll be left with something that is still really beautiful. So these greens will probably last longer than the ranunculus or roses. And you can just like, as they're going, just pull them out and you still have a really beautiful bouquet. Okay. So now we have a base of our greens. And I will go in with some texture, using the Christmas bush. And a textural element is good for, you know, communicating whichever color you want to go for, but also filling out an arrangement. So like a nice filler. And now we're gonna go in with the eucalyptus pod.
I like the eucalyptus pods. They're so
really
cool.
Good. And this
really
is
nice
another
form.
example of the like multiple usable pieces. If it were going in a larger arrangement, that would be nice on its own. But in this one, I think we can cut here, and then that gives us two pieces to work with.
Yeah, it's nice. It's just got a nice structure.
Yes. It's a good like juxtaposition to the like more whimsical elements that we have going on. We can add in some of our more statement flowers. And since this is going to be a 360 arrangement, I try to think of it as the four sides, like north, south, east, west. So like as you're turning, you always want to make sure that each face has its own moment going on. They don't need to be necessarily identical or symmetrical even, but you don't want any side to feel neglected. And these are Nina roses, which are like a bit brighter and more saturated than a
They
regular
really
rose.
feel, I mean, the color that gets
Yes.
picked up on camera, I mean, it's so bright.
I know, it's stunning.
It almost appears like it's so red, it almost feels a little orange too.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do a little carnation.
Kind of one of my favorite colors is that dusty rose
It is really
for
beautiful.
flowers.
It works so well with everything. You can go like with these really bright reds, or you can go with white. Like you can really do anything with it. Kind of tuck this guy in here. And then with the flowers, to create like a three-dimensional kind of style, you can cut even the same flower at different levels, so that they like kind of move your eye around the arrangement. But even if you place something, I don't love that there, so we'll try it over here, which I think looks a little better.
So you're not putting them all on the same plane?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. These anemones are really
Ooh, pretty.
so good.
They remind me of, there is an anemone Mr. Fokker, which is a purple color that looks like that.
Oh,
Yeah, those are nice.
yes, these are really cool. Maybe I'll do.
They look like they have really big Minnie Mouse eyelashes.
Yes. Another thing to be mindful in a centerpiece is this actual center, because we're designing it like from the front, so you kind of want to look in the middle and make sure that that isn't getting neglected in whatever you're doing.
And he still has to open up, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
so this one's still going to open up. This ranunculus is still pretty closed. So that's another fun thing about doing arrangements, combining things that are in their peak freshness or like peak beauty or openness. So like these roses are definitely party ready. They're super open, really lush. So they may not last as long as the other flowers, but they're so stunning. And then these, you know, can give you a few extra days. Now looking at what we've got going on, I think maybe we can add in a little more of the pale, like the dusty pinks, or we can even go like, let's see, more powdery. So based on what we have going on here, it feels like we could use a little bit more of a bridge between the reds, the very saturated reds, and the almost blue greens of the evergreens we have. So I pulled these quicksand roses, which are like a very dusty, pale pink, almost off-white. This carnation and this James Story orchid. These quicksand roses are one of our favorite like bridge elements. They can work with just about anything. So we'll see how those work in tying everything together. As far as texture, you can just, I guess, wanting to diversify your textural elements. So not all very round or not all very straight, vertical, or not all whimsical. You can do all of one style, but I think for this one, wanting to have a nice diversity of textures and balanced colors together as much as possible.
I just love thinking about you working in a corporate setting and then all of a sudden you do like this very creative, soft, you know, meditative
It is
activity.
meditative, yes. Like the placement feels very intentional. And to like further think about diversifying the texture, like putting in these butterfly ranunculus will add like a nice whimsy to everything we have going on here. And again, like this is another usable pieces example. You can just snip this guy, so you almost get 3 flowers out of 1. And then making a centerpiece, you want to be mindful of the eye line if this is going to be on a table. So the rule of thumb that I've learned is placing your hand, and if you can see over that, then it should be generally below your guest's eye line.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know where that
And
came from.
And if you don't want to see your guest, make sure it goes above your forearm with fingers outstretched. It's like to be symmetrical or asymmetrical.
Exactly.
That is the question.
Exactly. It's like a never-ending dilemma. It's like, how can you be balanced but not too round?
Mm-hmm.
So we need like one little guy here.
Well, it is just impressive because there is just quite a bit that you could fit in that relatively tiny vase.
Yes, yes. It's always really interesting when we will show people the vase we're building into. And they're like, are you sure that's big enough? Will that be enough? It's like, nope, we will make this very substantial with any size vase.
Thank you so much for sharing your art with us.
Thank you.
Do you have a favorite side, or are they all?
A favorite side. It's like picking between children. I would say I kind of like this side. Because you get this ranunculus, you know, this anemone's about to open. We have a little whimsy going on.
Beautiful.
Stay tuned here for more holiday specials. And in the meantime, you could check out Geometry Gardens workshops on their website. And head over to homesteadbrooklyn.com for a suite of online houseplant courses as well. We'll see you in the next video.